Hello, and welcome to another day of walking with Jesus as we continue to see what Jesus has to say to the rich young ruler in Luke 18:18 and following. It's an extensive passage. I read all of it yesterday. Today I'm just going to read 18 to 23, Luke 18:18 to 23. And we're going to consider what Jesus says in answer to the rich young ruler's question and how maybe that applies to us today. So let's look at this passage again. And a ruler asked him, "Good teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" And Jesus said to him, "Why do you call me good? No one is good except God alone." That's what we focused on yesterday. You know the commandments. Do not commit adultery, do not murder, do not steal, do not bear false witness, honor your father and mother. And he, the rich young ruler, said, "All these I have kept from my youth." When Jesus heard this, he said to him, "One thing you still lack. Sell all that you have and distribute to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. And come, follow me." But when he heard these things, the rich young ruler became very sad, for he was extremely rich. Okay, so as we look at this today, remember what Jesus is answering is the question that the rich young ruler gives him, which is, how shall I inherit eternal life? Or what must I do to inherit eternal life? And I have a feeling that the rich young ruler was actually hoping for just confirmation. Just keep doing what you're doing, kind of a thing. You're fine, don't worry about it. So Jesus, after asking him the question, "Why do you call me good?" which, as I said yesterday, is sort of a provocative question to get him to think and to realize that perhaps the one that he's talking to is indeed good, like God is God. And then he comes into the commandments, the law, if you will. And it's interesting because he focuses on the horizontal law, the law that has to do with the horizontal relationships that we have. Do not commit adultery. Do not murder. Do not steal. Do not bear false witness. And honor your father and mother. There's one missing from that. Oh, covetousness, I think, is the other one that is missing. Thou shalt not covet. And so he brings five of the horizontal laws out for the rich young ruler. And the rich young ruler says, I've done this. I have not borne false witness. I have not committed adultery. I haven't murdered anyone. We know that Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount found in Matthew dealt with each of these. To commit adultery, have you ever looked on a woman lustfully? Murder, have you ever been angry with someone? Stealing, you could go with covetousness and things of that nature. Have you ever desired that which belonged to your neighbor and wanted it? And have you ever been lax in any form of paying taxes or doing any of those things? Have you ever borne false witness, by perhaps not saying what you knew to be true in defense of another, not just telling something false about another? And have you perfectly honored your father and your mother? These things, if we really look at them, really examine them at the heart level, we realize that they're commandments that ultimately we cannot keep perfectly. We can do a good job with them, but we can't keep them perfectly from the heart. But the rich young ruler had evidently kept them, at least in their highest form. He hasn't committed adultery. He hasn't murdered anyone. He hasn't stolen anything, at least not anything that he would recognize as stealing. He hasn't borne false witness about it. He's not spoken a false witness against anyone. And evidently he honored his father and his mother. And so he's done those things from his youth. And when Jesus heard this, he said to them, and I think he might have said it with a note of sorrow in his voice even, that you've kept the law, but have you kept the intent of the law, which is the good of humanity? And so one thing you still lack. Sell all that you have and distribute to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven, and come, follow me. Those are actually, it seems to me, two things. Jesus is offering this rich young ruler the same offer that he gave to Peter and John and James. Come, follow me. And the rich young ruler only hears the first part. One thing you still lack, sell all that you have and distribute it to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. In other words, use the resources that you have for the good of humanity. You're very rich. You have more than you need. I don't think, well, I know that Jesus is not saying that everyone who would inherit eternal life has to sell everything they own. But on the other hand, what Jesus is saying is that we need to recognize that everything that we have comes from him and is to be used for the glory of his kingdom. It is to be used for the building up of others. And so the rich young ruler wasn't willing to sell everything. He was extremely rich. To give up everything that he had, to give up everything that he knew, and to follow Jesus was more than he could do. And I wonder for us today, if Jesus was to come to us and say the same thing to us, I want everything that you have. I want you to just sell it all and distribute it to the poor. Give it away and follow me. Are we that sold out to Jesus? You know, he has given us everything. Not only has he given us everything here materially, but he also then gave his life so that we might have eternal life with him. And the question, I suppose, for us is maybe, what are we holding back from Jesus? What are we clinging to that would be an idol in our lives? What are we holding on to that is holding us separate from what God would have for us, what his kingdom and his values and his riches would be? So as you walk with Jesus today, could you just practice the notion of saying, Lord, what am I holding back from you? What have I refused to give to you? Because you are my King. You are my Lord. So, Lord, if there's anything that I'm holding back, anything that I have not given to you, would you enable me to give that to you? My very self, my soul, and all my possessions, my family, my wife, my husband, my parents, my children, Lord, they're yours. Enable me to steward them for you in a manner that will bring glory to you and enrich your eternal kingdom so that I am participating in that kingdom even now. Go through your day that way and see what Jesus might say to you today as you walk with him. Oh yes, we are saved by grace. It's not what we do that saves us, it's what Jesus has done. But because of what Jesus has done, all of us, everything that we have, everything that we are, is owed to him. So as you walk with Jesus today, give everything to him. God bless you.